Who are you?
Sarah MacLeod, from the clan MacLeod.
A Highlander, you say?
Just like you.
What are you?
A ghost?
No. You're an immortal.
Just like you.
Good. That is a perfect place to start.
Here we are, born to be kings, we're the princes of the universe. Here we belong, fighting to survive in a world with the darkest powers. And here we are, we're the princes of the universe. Here we belong, fighting for survival. We've come to be the rulers of you all.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to Highlander, If on a Winter's Night. When last we left two of our immortals, the Celt and the Roman, they were learning many things from an older immortal named Takne. Some of them ridiculous, jumping from rocks to rocks, lifting, learning. Some of them new, reaching out with the new quickening sense they had been given upon their birth into immortality. Some took well to training, some didn't. But there was one night in particular, towards the end of their stay with Takne, that the older immortal asked for the hand of the Celt to dance a bit. And with the accompanying music of the heartbeats and the quickening sense of the wildlife around them and of each other, they found a rhythm and began to dance, but not well. Instead, Tiberius was asked to take over as Takne had a seat. And as we welcome back in the Celt and the Roman, played by Alice and Pruitt, we did a lot in the first episode. We saw them live, we saw them die, beneath a sky that told their story. Meteors at their birth on the same night, and an eclipse during their deaths on the same day at one another's hand. And as Takne sits down in a white, open-throated shirt, billowy, much like something a pirate would wear if the seas were yet to be conquered, his hair loose about his shoulders, as he begins to hum with the sounds of the quickening and the heartbeats. It is a poor comparison to that sense, but it keeps time. And we have a lot of that. But I want to know what's happening this second, this minute of a life eternal with the Celt and the Roman.
But I think after a few false starts and stops, Tiberius would look to change tactics. Bree, you're not used to following commands. You're used to being free. So why don't you lead? I'll talk you through it. And he'll start kind of naming the steps off of a very simple kind of Roman dance.
And she sort of takes a breath as she sort of just nods. Okay, I can do this, and sort of looks down, watching her feet more than anything else, trying to follow the instructions as she goes. And you can she's outwardly counting and sort of repeating after Tiberius the words he's saying.
As Takne hears this, it's just dance, just move. And with that instruction, I would like each of you to roll a skill, a speed skill that might have application to this moment. If it is anything to do with jumping or running, and if you don't have anything that you think fits, then just roll me a straight speed skill check. And we're going to take an average of the two, as you are moving as one.
Okay. I am trained in running.
Pretty close for the two of you, as steps stuttered become longer. The moves seem to have a bit of fluidity to them. The music, or whatever this is, becomes easier to follow. And for a moment, you're able to look at one another as you glide over the boards of this space. You're getting it. Is there any conversation?
I think Bree looks up and smiles. She's like, I think I'm getting better.
Well,
I think.
Well, of course you are. Look at you. And he tries to add like a spin to this now that she's kind of getting it. And a few more moves as we kind of step in, like get in lockstep. And
as the spin occurs, roll again for me, please. Okay, well, 16, not bad. The spin is executed with a precision far greater than a pair that has just started to dance. And from his corner, you hear Takne, ha ha, good! And he goes back to realizing that there is a mood and a moment, and he shuts himself up. So you are moving across this space. It has become your own, much like a battlefield, but this one, shoulder to shoulder, squared, instead of side by side.
mm-hmm.
Anything else?
I think Bree is quite rigid on the first spin, but after it starts to flow a lot more, she's actually smiling. This doesn't seem so much as learning anymore, rather than just enjoyment.
And Tiberius he's not a stranger to smiling and laughing. He just doesn't do it that much, except maybe on the battlefield. But he himself is actually like enjoying himself, and the reservations he usually feels around Bree are starting to kind of slip away a little bit as he kind of pulls her a little closer as they begin moving.
And as this dance, born of two soldiers, escalates, Takne stands up, looks around, continues to hum as he walks out of the space but leaves the door open, enough where the northern Italian winds are able to rush through and into the space. There is a chill to them, but still warm, as the inside becomes the outside, and Takne leaves. And I'd like one more roll from my two warriors. So, as the spin continues, there is someone's foot hits someone else's. And it is Tiberius who heads towards the floor, back down. But it is Bree who catches Tiberius before he can hit. And with a cradling motion, the two of you are locked in a very similar position. One that was born from your original meeting on the battlefield when you stared into one another's eyes, with a far different circumstance at play. But here you are again.
We're lucky I was leading.
I can't argue with you there. You seem to have me at a bit of an advantage.
I haven't dropped you yet.
Well, the night is still young.
And she just sort of pauses for a second and sort of just looks around. She probably didn't notice that he'd left.
And not looking away from Bree, Tiberius says, "No, he's gone."
We must have done okay then.
I think he trusts us to handle the rest ourselves.
She looks a little panicked more than anything. Not uncomfortable, just more looking around on what to do next. It's just, do you want me to drop you?
I guess that depends on what you want to do after that.
And again, she looks confused. She's not. It's almost like she's not understanding the phrasing or the words.
And Tiberius finds himself enough to be bold. One last time. He's always been rather hesitant with Bree, considering their history. But he's like, well, and he just kind of leans up and lightly kisses Bree. Not too assertive.
There's a moment as she pauses, but then sort of kisses back and doesn't drop him. If anything, she pulls him back upright.
So as the dance continues, we pull away from this scene in 112, 113. And I will ask my two immortals right now. Many hundreds of years pass. Are they spent together? Separate? A mixture of the two? But is this a relationship that is eternal? Or is it like the seasons? Do they come and go, just over a grander scale?
I would imagine that it is something more akin to the seasons. Tiberius has things that he's realizing he can go do, and he's sure that Bree has her own inclinations. But he would stay with her as long as she would like, for a time, for sure, to explore this. But, we may not come to an end, but all good things do.
I think she would be very much the same. It would be something she would, again, she wouldn't say, it's probably not something she would talk about, but she would definitely stay by his side almost as long as she could. But again, she likes to travel, she likes to learn. And if that took them in a different direction, even if it was just for a time and they met up again briefly, she would still go.
Mm-hmm.
So as these moments become days, become weeks, become months, years, and centuries, the man that you know as Tacne, who would become Juan Sanchez Villalobos Ramirez, would teach and train many other immortals, all for the same reason. The man known as Ramirez knew he had become an immortal too late in life, and that he was both blessed and cursed with the body of an older person. And while he could fancy himself capable of winning in such a fight, he knew the odds were stacked against him. And so it was his life's work, his many life's works, to find people that he believed could champion a true and prosperous use of whatever this prize is. And so he would leave them after a short time, but they would stay together, and the centuries would pass, and when we found them again, it would be a very different age. And so as we come back, I will welcome in an old face, one that we haven't seen in a while. Summer, welcome back. Perhaps quickly tell us who you will be playing, and then I will set the scene for where we currently are.
I will be back as Sarah McLeod, the Clan McLeod, the Highlander.
Fantastic, fantastic. And so, where we are right now, we are upon the seas. Very specific sea at a very specific time, the Caribbean. This is the golden age of piracy, when those that traveled beneath the skull and crossbones, or derivation thereof, ruled the ocean, where the nations of the world suffered them, but as of yet had no ability to stop them because they were a world away, and those seas were theirs. And it is upon a specific ship that we see, we maybe not call it a pirate ship, but a ship of entrepreneurship, aggressive business. This ship is called the Ancestor, and upon its boards walk someone that we've met before, and a captain. Captain Bree, your ship. Tell us of the Ancestor, and of course your first mate, Sarah McLeod.
The Ancestor is something she acquired, not necessarily bought, but she definitely acquired it. And she fills it with only those she can trust. and it's not so much piracy that she's interested in. However, it is a very handy, it's more of a convenience piracy if she can travel and learn via those who do use it. She doesn't set out to have it almost as a career path, but the crew herself they're more friends, and they have to be trusted. And they probably would have not gone through a process, but probably had a very in-depth conversation in a tavern or something somewhere before they were even invited aboard. And she would not have introduced herself as captain.
So, Summer, why would we find Sarah in this part of the world?
Before Connor died, he gave her a list of immortals who might be willing to help her if she ever stumbled across them. And I think she's been looking for something to bring her kind of joy. She feels very lost in this immortal life, purposeless, as she is kind of waiting for the end. Like, that's what she feels like she's been doing. And so seeking out the others has become kind of a task, something to do, a hobby. And I think that with the age of piracy, and just knowing that probably a lot of immortals would be drawn to this area of the world, she came, and was lucky enough to find Brenna. And I don't know that she anticipated on staying with her for very long, but ended up finding something that made her feel something again, that made her feel the way that she did when she was with Connor. And so she's stayed aboard the ship much longer than she originally anticipated.
Okay. And so to set the scene for you all, as the ancestor is clipping through the seas, nicely making waves, Bree had received a message that Tiberius would be in Port Royal. I leave it up to you how long it has been since the last you spoke, how you ended terms, but upon going to Port Royal, you, under investigation, found out that he had been taken from Port Royal by a pirate by the name of Red Michael. Red Michael sails a ship known as the Tide Eternal, and he was on his way towards the Anarchy Archipelago, an area and chain of islands used for trade, commerce, for those that either label themselves as pirates or those that want to study piracy. But that was the last that the man fitting the description of Tiberius was seen, off on the Tide Eternal with Red Michael.
And I think they're probably, whether they're not close to the destination, but at least I think Bree would not be looking nervous, because she would never do that, but maybe Sarah would notice she's not as vocal as she normally is, and if anything, she's wandering the decks trying to find something to do, even though it's not her job. She's giving people jobs, she's trying to do them herself, and she just watches the sea for a long time.
Are you heading towards the archipelago, or?
Oh yes, yeah.
We'll say that it is twilight on the last day before you would reach that island chain. As you walk the boards issuing orders, the crew hops too. They know better than to disobey the captain, especially one that though they may not know it, could survive just about any mutiny put towards them. So, as this is all occurring, I leave it to you all. You have some time aboard the Ancestor. How do you use it?
Sarah has been watching the captain kind of pace about the deck. She's been pretty relaxed, but can definitely tell that that she's in an unusual mood. Normally she's very like take charge, knows how to delegate and get things done, but pacing around the deck and trying to do jobs herself, I think has kept. At first, it was probably a little bit entertaining to watch and see, like try and figure out what was going on with her. But I think eventually Sarah would leave her post and go up to the captain and kind of interrupt her in one of her jobs, maybe reaching out and like putting a hand on her arm.
Yes?
What are you doing?
What do you mean, what am I doing?
I mean, why are you so nervous?
I'm not nervous. Why would I be nervous?
That's what I'm asking.
We're just reaching our destination, and I want everything to be in order.
We've reached many destinations and I've never seen you like this.
And she sort of just looks down for a moment, and she walks away from whatever job she was doing. It was probably something very menial that someone's already done, and she's just checking it. It's different.
All right, tell me why.
There's someone there that I know and haven't seen in a very long time. Probably got themselves into trouble.
Oh, you think so?
I do. I mean, they're probably fine, but it doesn't hurt to go and look.
Well, should we be preparing the crew for trouble?
We're always prepared for trouble. You should know that.
So, who are they?
A friend. A good friend. One I've not seen in a very long time.
How long?
Too long.
I wish you'd just be upfront with me, Captain.
It's a very good friend. Someone I've known for a very long time, since the beginning.
Quite an old friend, then.
Why do you want to know?
I'm just curious, is all.
There's nothing wrong with being curious. But yes, it is an old friend. One that is very dear to me. And it's been a very long time since we last spoke. So I'm going to go and see what trouble they've got themselves into, and if I have to pull them out of it.
What kind of trouble do you anticipate?
The usual. Just trouble, I guess. It's hard to tell.
I don't want you getting in unnecessary trouble. For a friend.
It's for a friend. Why? It's not unnecessary if it's for a friend.
It can be.
This one isn't. Nothing unnecessary there. You sound worried.
I'm always worried.
This is true. I can walk away from the sort of trouble we're going to get into.
I
like
trust
to
you.
think so. That's why you're on my ship. Because you trust me and I trust you.
If you say it'll be all right, then I'll follow you.
I know. I know you will. And you know I'll follow you. I know I'm your captain, but at the end of the day, you're my friend. Don't let them all hear that.
I won't.
Good. Because I want you there when I go and have a look.
She nods, and you can definitely tell that she's probably has more questions than she's asking. But she lets it go for now.
If she sees it, she will sort of, if you turn to go, she'll take your arm. It's like, you can ask. If I don't want to answer, I won't. That doesn't make me trust you any less. It just makes you inquisitive.
No, I know.
Just make sure you're ready for when we arrive.
Of course.
It's about this time, as protocol demands, the sails are reduced a bit to avoid the cloud of night and the inability to really navigate as such when the seas darken. And so a slower approach is taken. And as less crew are required to both look out and man the ship, it is the customary time upon a pirate ship, or one studying piracy, as of course the ancestor is, that the crew produces from seemingly nowhere jugs and bottles, but before taking a drink or taking a second drink, the look is given to both captain and first mate to see if this is something that is allowed on this particular evening, as they know they have been set to task. But there is that pregnant anticipation of pirates with nearly full rum bottles in hand as they lean forward, waiting for the captain to give the okay.
And Sarah also looks at the captain.
I think Bree walks towards the closest member of her crew with a bottle, just takes it off them. As long as you can walk when we land, then it's fine. And she just sort of pulls the cork out and sort of raises the bottle and takes a swig herself and passes it over to Sarah.
As soon as that declaration is made, because a pirate's ability to walk is seldom compromised, and that gives a lot of leeway in inebriation. And seeing the captain herself pull cork from bottle and take a swig, there is a choral element of "Arrs" that go over everything as everybody begins to, a squeeze box is produced, as drums, like maritime small drums, are brought out, and whistles and flutes begin to play, as though it was a time of great violence, a time of uncleanliness, if we are to be frank. There was quite nothing like, or so I'm sure immortals would say, a calm sea, a ship above it, and pirates at play. And so we will cut to several hours later as the crew of the Ancestor, still in the throes of just celebration, both primal and enjoyable, as they sit and drink and sing and talk, and with dawn 7 hours away, where would we find the captain and the first mate? Among the party-going pirates, or separate?
I think Bree would walk around for a bit amongst her crew. She wouldn't leave the group, as it were, but she might find a part of the ship just a few steps away from this raucous and prop herself up against it with a bottle of her own, sipping at it though. She's not downing it. And she sort of sees Sarah and just pats the spot behind her and holds out the bottle.
Yeah, Sarah has definitely been. She loves when the crew is in such high spirits. And so she's probably been making the rounds, drinking with people, sitting at various tables. But when she sees the captain go off by herself, and gesture over, she happily gets up and comes to sit beside her.
And she offers the rum to you. I'm sorry from taking you away from... And she sort of looks over as someone probably staggers and falls over. That. I know I'm normally more involved, but not tonight.
Not at all, Captain. Never mind your company.
She sort of just bends and sort of looks over at the crew member that's probably fallen flat on his face. I don't think he's walking tomorrow.
I don't think a lot of them will be.
No. I don't think I've established the proportions exactly. I'm not sure if some of them... And she sort of mumbles to herself for a bit. Why did you join this ship?
Well, I needed something to do. And you offered me a place.
I did. I thought you would have had a destination, though.
To be honest, I don't really know where I'm going.
Not
I
at all.
haven't. Do you?
Sort of leans back a second, sort of resting her head. No, I don't think I do, actually. I have things I want to learn, and I follow the path that leads me. But not necessarily a destination.
Just been drifting.
Yes. I think we both have. Drifting, that is.
But it's nice to drift with someone.
It
For
is
once.
nice to drift with someone. And someone who knows you better than just people. You can stand in a crowded tavern and you can feel alone. But here, it's not so bad.
This friend of yours, they know you pretty well, huh?
You could say that. Yeah. We know each other pretty well. Traveled together for a bit. So, did you ever travel with anyone at all before this?
No. Just by myself.
I'm sorry, that must have been very lonely.
Sometimes.
I enjoyed the company. I enjoy company now.
It's hard. I didn't really want to get attached to anyone.
Sometimes you can't help it.
People just come and go so fast.
that they do. Were you attached to someone, as you say it?
She gets quiet for a moment and probably drinks. I only ever really had my pa and Connor.
I only really had this friend. Ever, actually, until now.
Yeah, same. Till now.
Probably why I'm going to go and make sure they're not in too much trouble. Very capable, but you never know.
Could I ask you a question that's probably a bit rude?
You can. I can't promise I'll answer it.
Do you love them?
And she pauses for a very long time. I don't know. I did. But then we parted ways. So I don't know what that means.
You can part from someone and still love them.
You can. You don't tell them that.
You haven't told them that you do.
No. Why would I?
Because losing people's easy.
Exactly.
And what if something's happened to him? Will you
I-
regret not saying anything?
I won't know until that's happened. I'm sure I will, but then I might not. Some things are better left unsaid until you know the situation. But if I don't, I get back on my ship. I leave. It's the way it is. I may regret it, but I may also never say it. I don't know. I've not experienced it before.
I understand.
So you have told someone that before? Or have you regretted not saying it before?
I don't think so. It's hard to know. When you know that you're bound to lose someone eventually.
This is what I mean. I may have already lost them anyway. I think I have. So why bother saying it now? Then you have a weakness.
You've got one anyway. Whether you tell them or not.
But I don't have to tell anyone else.
I
don't
know.
want someone else using it. It's my weakness and it's my own to bear. No one else need use it. I'd probably use it myself anyway.
Yeah, I've never seen you go so out your way for someone.
No. If I'm honest, when I heard about it, I didn't think about going at all. Didn't even cross my mind. And then, don't know. It was up on deck, and the sun was beating down, and for a moment, just for a moment, a cloud blocked out the sun, and I just thought it was the right thing to do.
Hopefully we find him well.
Hopefully. I think they will be fine, though. They're quite capable. I think. It's been a while.
Things change.
They do. They really do. And she just takes another swig from the rum bottle.
And as the evening turns from that until the early morning, the sun rises, as it often does here in the Caribbean. And ahead of you, there has been leagues that have been cast, and the archipelago is there. It is a busy area for this section of the ocean. You can see along the horizon there are surrounded sails that the pirates used to call a company when you would look and be able to see anything upon the water. No one flying any nation of origin, which usually indicates they have none. But as you get closer, you are able to pick out a larger vessel. Along the back of it written, "The Tide Eternal." And when you close on the area, you see that a flag is run up the main mast, a flag for parley, and a second flag follows it up, one to tether together, and more just outside of the dangerous reefs and shoals that surround the island, making it very dangerous for deep-drafted war vessels. But pirates are not that. And so, Captain, I will ask you, there has been a call for parley from the Tide Eternal. There has been a request and an offering of tethering together instead of having to drop your own anchor, which is, for a pirate, a way to always stay fast. Totally up to you. What would you like to do?
I think her head's not straight right now. And she'd actually turn to Sarah. What do I normally do in these situations?
Trust no one.
Yeah. That's what we do. And she won't tell her. And sort of almost like having that realization, of course I don't do that. Like you can see her talking to herself and sort of straightening herself up.
How close do you get? Do you get within, like, rowing distance, shouting distance?
Rowing distance. I wouldn't think she'd go any closer.
Okay, so for the sake of this, we're going to put it at about 100 yards. If you want to make it further than that, you can. That would be a pretty hefty row across just to, take the boats out. And as soon as you drop your own anchor and make preparations to, moor yourself outside of the archipelago, you see that there are message signals being shined across to you all from a piece of polished mirror or steel. And they say, "Are you here for him?"
Looking at the captain.
She sort of smiles in a way. Which him are they referring to? And if she can, she'll signal back. Who?
From this distance, you can make out the signaler talking to somebody, a very kind of like a caramel-skinned, shirtless man with a dark black top knot from this distance, and you can almost hear this person's laughter when apparently the relayed message is given to them. You receive another message in short order: meet in the middle with boats. And you see them prepping a launch boat, and on the side facing the ancestor. It seems they are coming halfway to meet with you.
Sarah, with me.
Always.
And she'll stop on the way to the boats, just briefly talking to some of her crew to sort of be ready. But then she will climb down into this boat.
As you're climbing down, you realize that the man that had fallen face down on the deck is standing there, his eyes bloodshot, but he is able-bodied as possible, and he gives you a wink as one of his eyes seems to always sort of be winking.
We'll stay sharp, Captain.
And you can smell the rum leaking from his pores. But by God, he's not shaken.
She just gives him a smile. And just in reference, because it's this person, she winks back and slides down into the boat.
You can take two, basically, oar people with you, oarmen to take you over. If there's anything or anybody else you'd like to take, let me know. They seem to be coming over with just this gentleman with a top knot, the person that was signaling, and two rowers of their own.
Yeah, she'll just take two rowers and then her and Sarah.
Okay, as you get across and as you move, the waves in this particular area are still because the reefs and the shoals act as a natural break for some of the larger swells. So it's a calm movement between the two boats. But as you get over there, you are gifted with this large figure with the top knot as he steps up on the edge and the railing of the smaller kind of whaling craft. And as soon as you get within distance, you start to feel a sickness in your stomach. Both of you.
And I think that sort of... she doesn't stand quite so tall anymore and looks over to Sarah.
Yeah, Sarah also was already feeling kind of nervous about this, but definitely more so now. But I think she like naturally like straightens up as if to like remind the captain, like, you're the captain. And kind of nods like this is going to be okay.
And she does straighten up. And she immediately looks at the two oarmen and is just like, keep going. Faster.
They don't seem to have obviously noticed the feeling of the quickening that you two experienced, but as you get closer, it's only a matter of moments between the two propulsions that the crafts come together, and rowmen from each craft go through the process of just tying the smaller vessels together to keep them, in a general vicinity without having to continue to row and, negotiate. But they eye up one another as not much rivals, but as business competitors, as many of these crewmen at least probably know of one another and the crafts upon which they sail. But the man with the top knot, and now you can see the raised iconography of scars all over his body, the one that is definitely producing this immortal level of the quickening, steps forward.
So,
he looks over at Sarah. It looks like you have one too.
And Bree will glance over at Sarah. Who are you?
Pounds his chest.
Tosh.
A strong name?
When he smiles, you can see that several of his teeth have been filed on one side.
It is.
Is she... He interrupts if you're starting to talk, and he looks over at Sarah. Are you just keeping her around for play, or is she a friend?
We're friends. Yeah.
That we are.
Are you here for him?
What him? Who? Who are you referring to?
He puts his foot further up on the plank and moves his boot over to your boat. The Roman.
And she takes a step closer, almost mimicking the stance that he's taking. Yes, that would be him. You know him then?
He and my captain are conducting business. Red Michael. He's one of us.
I understand. Can I not see him?
If he's still alive, you can't. They are advancing the game as we speak. And he points to a sandbar beyond the Tide Immortal. He took him there to take his head. It's not something you do on a boat.
Then why are you here?
To make sure you don't go there.
Why you think I'd stop them?
Don't know if you follow the rules.
I follow those rules.
We all do.
He smiles with the pointed teeth. Not all of us. Each of you can roll me an intellect check. Anything that gives you a benefit for observation, when the sandbar is indicated and the light strikes it just the right way, you see something.
I have a skill that I have an eye for detail, trained in any task that involves finding or noticing small details.
Perfect.
I have recognizing deception, if that is
Yes, I'll
related
take
to
it here.
Yeah.
Alice, it is Bree that when she looks towards the indicated area, as Tosh points, you see that there is in fact a huge silhouette. You see another silhouette in some form of supplication, whether it's kneeling on both knees, dramatically smaller, but the larger figure is surrounded by 4 others, and they all appear to be holding rifles.
And she probably stares at the scene just for a moment. Looks back. So you're cheating.
No. Rules are rules. We cannot interfere with a contest between immortals. But the world is a crazy place. People can interfere that are not immortals.
And she glances over again and looks back to Sarah. I want to go over there.
We should wait.
For what? I won't interfere, I just want to go over there. And she looks visibly not panicked. It's not panicked. It's just tense.
If we go over, you may end up fighting. Do you want that
Closer.
today?
Closer, then.
She just nods.
Excuse me. And she sort of looks back at him. Please take your boot off my boat.
He does so, but leans forward on his knee, and his eyes shift from Bree to Sarah.
I have the itch as well. I challenge you. I'll take you to him. Let's go, Red.
Sarah just looks back at Bree.
I've never turned down a challenge.
Nor I.
And Bree will just smile at this man. Take us there, then.
You see that at his side is a large whaler's knife. It's curved, and he puts his hand on the top.
No, I challenged her.
And he points at Sarah.
You're the captain. You stay with your boat.
Sarah stands up. I'll see you after.
Bree knows she can say absolutely nothing. I'll be waiting. In my boat.
And Sarah will move across to the other boat.
Tosh indicates a position.
Have a seat.
Thank you. She sits down.
He sees the hilt of the katana.
It's a nice sword. Very nice.
Yes, it is.
And he smiles again with his sharpened teeth. You begin to row away. Bree, do you return to the ancestor?
I don't think she does. I think she watches both the beach and where this boat carrying Sarah goes. Or at least before. If she does return to the ancestor, she waits a long time. She wants to see something if something happens.
You see the boat that's carrying Sarah is as straight as the oarman can make it, heading right towards the sandbar that has the indicated... They had indicated as holding Tiberius and this Red Michael. This huge, massive silhouette that seems to almost blot out the reflection of the water around. And of course, the riflemen that are standing at presumably Red Michael's back.
She will order the oarman, probably just to go closer to the sandbar. She won't go to it, but she wants better visibility.
Okay. But you do not return to the ancestor. You stay in the water?
Yeah, she stays in the water for a fair bit of time.
Okay. So, as this occurs, let's go to the sandbar. Tiberius, You are privy to the scene as it plays out from a different perspective. You see the arrival of a boat. You see a parlay. It is an interesting sensation to witness from this distance. It would be more comfortable if you didn't have several balls of shot lodged in your thighs, in your shoulders. Gifts from the crew of Red Michael. A large, hulking figure with a shaved head, but the back of it, the remainder of his thin red hair tied into a bun in a Polynesian fashion. His fair skin darkened to the point of tested and tried leather. He has a long red, almost British jacket on that he takes off. And again, the iconography that gifts Tasha's skin also gifts the skin of Red Michael. His riflemen are reloading. They don't seem to be ready to fire again. But your sword and shield are dropped into the sand about 10 feet to your right as Red Michael pulls out a cutlass. I'm afraid this is how it's got to be, Roman.
And Tiberius just at least the odds will be even now. And he pulls himself up on shaky legs, waiting for his body to heal a little bit, and slowly stalks over to his sword and shield.
Though captained by somebody that probably does this a lot, several of the riflemen, the pirates, are looking with eyes of dread that someone that they personally put shot into is getting up, shaking it off, and walking over. They may have seen it before, but this is not a sight seen 100 times that becomes commonplace. At least not to mortals. There you go, that's the spirit! Red Michael says. Pick up your stick and your sword. I promise it'll be quick.
Of that, I have no doubt. And Tiberius just kind of like limbers up, pops his neck, and gets his sword ready, kind of shakes out a little bit of the, he's probably been bound maybe, kind of shakes out a little bit of that, muscle lethargy or whatever. Since you can dishonor yourself no more, let's get this sad spectacle over with. I'm getting kind of hungry.
Yes, lads. And he goes to raise his hand, and you see the rifles coming up again. But he looks over his shoulder and sees the approaching craft. And his hand stays as you see a boat reach the shore. And the first mate that you would know is Tosh hits the sand. And you see a red-headed woman that you have knew not to be aboard the craft, the Tide Eternal, and you get the feeling of the quickening come over you. Much further out than Red Michael, you know that this red-headed woman in the craft is also of your kind.
Is there going to be 2 fights today or just one, Michael?
You can tell he doesn't know, and he's unsure as to what exactly is happening here.
And seeing that apprehension in Red Michael and already noticing it in his men, like Tiberius, he'll go ahead and just kind of try to play into that and just, what's the matter, Michael? You don't seem to be as prepared as you boast. Your men seem uneasy.
Shut up. And as soon as the sand hits, he looks over with an almost like shrugging of the shoulders. What are you doing here? And it's at that point that Sarah meets Tiberius. Sarah, you are brought aboard as you hit the white sand of this bar. Tosh jumps down. The oarmen stay in the craft and just kind of make sure that it's far enough up not to drift with the tide. And you see this battered figure, and then you see the man that could only be Red Michael as he's talking to Tosh, and Tosh responds with, "I got a bite of my own." And he indicates with that whaler's knife further down the beach, presumably to give both combatants space.
Yeah, when she sees the other two that were dueling, she knows immediately who's who, and who the captain was here for. And I think she looks at him for a beat longer than she should, just given the situation, and then turns to walk further down the beach.
Yeah, and Tiberius might notice that and just kind of look at this new redhead and just like look her up and down. But he wouldn't say anything, and he would turn back to Red Michael, the challenge at hand.
Okay, so as you all are moving, Pruitt, unfortunately Tiberius doesn't have very much room to prep here, but is there anything you'd like to do? And the same question to Summer Sarah.
Question, did they take Tiberius's armor off of him? Or did they just kind of take his weapons away?
For the purposes of what's gone on right now, they would have left, let's say they would have left a third of it, because they've been hitting your thighs with these shots. They're not hitting the bulk of you. It's almost like, obviously, Red Michael knows the best way to mess up an immortal is to hit them in, you know, the limbs to keep them.
Right.
So.
Okay.
But for the purposes of mechanics, you still have all of your mechanical stuff because they gave you your shield.
Okay. Well,
that's how I'm counting it, because even if you were wearing it, quickness, blah blah blah, for this, it's, you know, sword and board. So you're at full mechanical health when it comes to that. Okay.
Well, in that case, Tiberius, he kind of, like I said, he limbers himself up a bit, and then he whips his sword around in a bit of a dance. But is pretty stiff and rigid, and is playing into that, actually, kind of walking a little off kilter, even if it's not as much as he's actually injured. But he adopts a parrying stance, and I'm going to go ahead and spend 3 speed points, but I have an edge of 2, so it's only 1 to adopt a blocking stance.
Okay.
Because I have the block ability.
Fantastic. And that's, you can block 1 melee attack within the next minute, correct?
Yep.
All right. So as that begins, Summer, what would you like to do as Tosh is leading you by himself? He's taking no other sailors or gunmen with him. Strangely enough, if there's honor to be found here on the Tide Eternal, it appears the first mate has a little bit more than the captain.
She is working to stay relaxed. I think she has a tendency to get a little bit tense, and it's always been to her detriment. So she's working to keep herself loose, and just kind of repeating to herself that she's going back to the ship, like hyping herself up essentially. But she would go ahead and follow his lead, and wait for him to be ready.
Okay. So, as we begin, we are going to do a joint battle here. I will absolutely. I've got a way to make that work, and we need a flaming fist of some kind. I got you. Thank you very much, Pope. We're going to do a joint combat here, obviously, and not against one another, as Tiberius is going up against Red Michael, and we have Sarah McLeod going up against Tosh. So, as everything breaks down, I would like each of my friends here to roll me a little bit of that initiative to see where I can slot you in. To beat Red Michael, it is a 3. To beat Tosh, it's a 2. So...
Okay.
Fantastic. Both of those are successes, and so the first round of attacks go towards the two of you. Pruitt, for the sake of what Tiberius has been through, I'd like you to take 5 off of your might pool to start with. Please take off any wounds that you receive. Go first from might, and then to speed. Once you reach intellect or dip into intellect, please let me know. We are not going to go by Cypher's original. If you lose might, then there's a reaction and things like that. We have immortals here, so we're using a generalized pool, but it helps with the narrative. So when might is gone, that's reflective of what's happened to you. So we will go with Pruitt first. Red Michael's got his guys. What are you going to do?
Red Michael's got his guys, and maybe like right at the beginning, as it's still maybe in this moment of confusion, looking from me to his first mate and what the hell's going on there. And Tiberius wastes no time whatsoever. He is fleet of foot. How far apart are they? About a short distance, maybe?
Absolutely, yep.
Yeah, he's fleet of foot. So I am trained in run defense, or running actions. So as long as I get a level 2, which is actually level 1 because I'm trained, I can also attack after moving a short distance.
You certainly can.
I'm just basically just like looking, just waiting for his eyes to glance away, and just like a dart right to him. And I'm trying to finish him as fast as possible. Someone this big. All right. So, yeah, I run the hell out of that distance.
You sure do.
Yeah, and I am going to. I'm going to slash with my spatha and do 1 level of effort, and I'm going to put it towards damage.
Gotcha. So with the 17, you get to add an additional point of damage to all of this. Once you have equated everything that you have dropped in, including your effort, please let me know what Red Michael has had happen to him.
Yeah, I come straight in, and that's going to be, 4, 5, 8 damage, as I'm just going to come in, maybe as he's starting to raise his sword and try to slash him at the side, get him underneath his sword arm.
Fantastic. And all of this plays out exactly as you've described, Pruitt, as he was interrupted in what he wanted to do, and with your incredible charge and rush, you do catch him beneath where his coat may have had some armament. In a flashy display of bravado, removing such, it cuts deep into his armpit, taking some of that iconography and marring it, at least momentarily, as he jumps back from the wound that you have given him. Mm-hmm. Sarah, you have defeated or beaten Tosh in the initiative. We cut to the other end of the beach. As violence is engaged here, so too is violence engaged farther down. Summer?
She's trying to figure out exactly what his attack strategy is going to be. So she's actually hanging back and starting to circle him a bit, and she's really trying to take more of a defensive position, waiting to see if he's going to just swing on in, or if he's also going to play it a little bit on the defensive. Because if she can get a feeling for his fighting style, she thinks that she'll have a much better advantage of taking him out.
Okay, roll me an intellect roll because I know what you're trying to do, and we'll see what you have.
Okay.
Okay, so with a natural 20 on this roll, you gain the following knowledge. As Tosh turns and pulls out the whaling knife, he immediately flips it to an underhand grip. You see directly through this. You can see that this is a feint and not how he normally holds the weapon. Mm-hmm. And so as he is preparing to move, for the next 2 rounds, you get advantage on both your defenses and your attacks against him, as the whispers of Connor and a man you never met, Ramirez, Takne, whisper into your ears, and these teachings begin to bleed back out as you can see the shift of the foot, you can see the maneuver, you can see him drag and shift and feint. And as he comes at you, we're going to do now the defense. I need you to roll a speed defense as Tosh comes in at you, but do so with advantage, as this is the first of your 2 rounds.
Okay.
Okay. I am going to give you as is. This is a +4 to the major effect is this. You get another attack here, almost as a retribution for both the knowledge that you have and the laziness upon which Tosh is giving you information, or you know, his tells are too profound. Give me an attack, speed or might, at advantage as he oversteps.
All right.
Okay, and so with the 15, as it drops in on him, for 6 damage, you light up a line along... Well, tell me what you do to him. You just tell me the story.
Yeah, I think she hangs back, and she was fully anticipating him to... The way that he talks and walks, I think, was giving her the impression that he would be more efficient than he is. But the moment he takes his stance, she can read him like a book. And I think that she just smirks a little bit to herself and realizes that she might have been worried for nothing. And rather than waiting even a moment for him to step in to attack, she rushes forward, knowing that her size and speed is going to give her an advantage here. And just she's aiming to kill from the beginning. She doesn't want to waste time like trying to, work him down. She doesn't want to draw this out. So she immediately goes for like his neck, chest, shoulder, with her sword.
So as the sword comes in, the sword of Juan Sanchez Villalobos Ramirez, it cuts through the top knot as it was dangling down, severing the hair with its razor's edge, and into his neck, stopped only by a chip taken out of the collarbone. And as you're able to spin and retract the blade away, he looks down as blood rushes from the exposed wound. And for all the bravado shown on the boats between he and the captain and you, there is fear coming from this man as he has been dealt a terrible wound. Further down the beach, we're going to go to the defensive role. I need you to make a speed defense as not only Red Michael attacks, but 2 of the 4 gunmen fire. You're muted.
Yeah, I'm going to assign the blocking stance that I got in. That was for Red Michael. So I'm going to use that to block his attack. And then we'll try to see if I can dodge out of the way of the other 2 gunmen.
Yep, give me that speed defense.
Okie dokie. Wow. The fates
Okay.
are balanced.
That would have been a terrible thing had it counted, but the Pope of Malibu had a different situation that occurred just a moment ago with the donation that came in. And so with that, instead of taking the shot in the shoulder as it was intended, as you move to block Red Michael, the shot hits the wood of, and the metal and the bindings of your shield. And as that hot shot hits, the rum and alcohol that had been consumed, your shield being used as a bar top the night before on the Tide Eternal, bursts into flames as it licks around the outside of the shield. You do not feel this heat as it is on the opposite side, but as it begins to manifest, this shield, this fist, if you would, is now burning. And you may launch an attack whenever you would like. The shots have been deflected by a Pope's grace.
Well, the gods are with me once again. Well, in that case, I'm going to ignore the mortals because in this instance, no offense, but they don't matter. And I'm going to move... seeing this for what it is, now, is the shield itself on fire, or is it my fist?
It's the shield, like the protection side of the shield where you're holding it is fine. It'll warm up eventually, but the flip side that the enemy sees has fire licking all up it.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, in that case, I'm just going to use kind of the shield to get in Red Michael's face. I'm going to use a couple levels of effort here. One for the attack and one for damage. The attack is kind of me kind of flicking the flames and trying to distract him. Yeah. So, sorry, that was a 3, but I don't know. I guess I didn't hit him on that one.
No. Yeah, so as you come in, you're able to move, and he's doing more to duck out of the way as this situation hits, as your sword hits the sand behind him. What you're doing here is, narratively and mechanically, you're making sure to keep those gunmen kind of on the opposite side of your shield as well, and so it's limiting your window as a soldier to be able to effectively attack. He kind of stumbled into one of those blind spots. Let's go back down, as even though first blood was drawn, that was drawn on a defensive roll, as Sarah now has another shot at Tosh. How would you like to attack?
She obviously, like, having caught him a bit off guard, she's going in for the other side. She's trying to kind of take advantage of this moment that he clearly wasn't expecting, to attack him again.
You do so with advantage, because you still have your earlier effect in play. Okay, so that will be an additional, let's see, total of that is actually going to be 8, I believe, as the damage. Once again, tell me what you do to Tosh as you are having your way with the first maid of the Tide Eternal.
Yeah, she sidesteps and exactly mirrors her first movement on his other side, to cut into each of his shoulders, making it, regardless of him, if he decided to switch hands or something, would make it equally difficult for him to now attack her in return.
So as you wounded terribly the one shoulder, as you spin and dance as described and wound the other side, he was doing just that. As he flipped the wailing knife to the other hand, in mid-flip, you catch him along his upper bicep, and the wailing knife drops to the ground, sticking blade down into the sand. As he looks up, and as you do another 8 damage to Tosh, you see that he is bleeding profusely. And for a moment, you see him look over his shoulder towards the boats.
not thinking of running, are you?
And since it is his turn, as we're coming back around here, that's exactly what he's thinking as he gets up and starts to run. I will allow you to make a speed roll here. You may make it an attack. There's going to be a higher DC, or if you just want to catch him and kind of like keep him from the boats, that's just a regular speed roll here. And anything you want to add to it, let me know.
Yeah, she's not going to attack him from behind. She just wants to get in front of him and basically force him to confront her again. So I'll just roll that speed. See if I can't get in front of him.
Yeah, you can absolutely. You kind of move, and as he's stumbling away, you slide and get in front of him on the sand, right where the sand becomes wet and packed with the tide as it's rushing in. You feel the warm water touch the back of your boots as you are standing closer to the boat, the escape, than he is. And you see him, both of his arms shaking and trembling with the injury. He pulls out a smaller knife from the back of his pants as he's just standing there defensively, ready to do something. He has spent his action to run. You caught up with him. As we go over to, I need a defense roll, another speed defense roll from my Roman, as they are all coming in for you. Okay, so as they come in, I would like you to take five might off of you, reduced by whatever armor that you're using, which I believe reduces it completely. So with that 5 taken into consideration for the armor, because of that roll as well, 2 of the riflemen fire. And so that is an additional 10 damage as 2 of these balls strike the side of your legs, 1 on your right arm. As you are suffering, you suffer 10 might as this tears into your flesh, which would be 9 because you still had an armor point.
Right. So I take 9 more. Okay.
Alrighty, and we're going to go right back to the Roman. You just got hit. What would you like to do, my friend?
So these 2 balls of shot just like plow into Tiberius, and he kind of like stumbles away from Red Michael for a second, and just kind of and just lets out this guttural scream that they can probably hear on the ships. And I'm going to use my surging confidence. I'm going to spend 1 might and do a recovery roll, and I can still take an action after that. So I'm going to go ahead and roll my recovery roll. So I gain back 8 to my might pool, and then I come right at Red Michael, almost as you could probably see, like the slugs maybe pop out, 1 out of his arm, 1 out of his leg, as his sheer will pushes them out of his body, and he just comes straight in, and he lets his shield loose. He kind of like tosses it and takes his spatha in both hands because he is angry and he wants to murder this guy. And that is exactly what I'm going to do with my wreck ability. So I use 2 hands. It's -1 to hit, +3 damage, and I'm gonna go ahead and use I'm gonna use effort, but it'll be on damage if I hit. So yeah, that's a 17 to hit, so that's +1 damage on top of the 4, so that's 5 on top of the 3, so that's 8. And I was gonna use 2 levels of effort, so that's another 6, so that's 14 total damage as I just bring my spatha down at a downward angle, and I'm trying to cut his head and arm off, like go from neck to underarm is what I'm trying to do.
And you get halfway there. As you bring it down, he's able to turn and move, but the angle and his anatomy are still the same for the soldier that struck, and instead of his head and arm dropping to the sand, it is just the left arm of Red Michael that leaves his body and drops to the ground. Prax, thank you very much. All players listening, you have 1 GM intrusion that you can refuse, courtesy of the Bard of Tales from the Grim. Make sure you keep that in mind. As you see this, Red Michael looks down, and while he still has his cutlass in his hand, he is looking at his arm lying on the beach, and you see him almost vomit as he sees it. There's a that comes through him as the shock rips through his immortal frame. Let's go back down the beach as Summer. Sarah has Tosh literally between a rock and a hard place. You have him faced up square as you were taught. What will you do?
Yeah, she darted to move in front of him as he was running away. And she just kind of shakes her head because that's disappointing. He challenged her and then decided to book it. But she's going back in for another attack. Obviously having him in a very, very bad spot. So she's just gonna go back in, try and take his head.
Last one with advantage because he ran from your last one.
Yep. Not great.
Somehow, as you swing in, he kind of ducks down in an effort of supplication. You're not sure if he's trying to beg for his life or it was a defensive maneuver. But as you swung for his head, he just limbos down past it, the remnants of his top knot catching the blade again. And we're going to stay here as he sees a moment and he jumps up towards you with the knife. I need a speed defense from you, Summer. Last one, an advantage from you for this one. That's good. So as you're able to come by, we're going to say that even though this is a special circumstance here, what it is this is a disarming strike. Actually, no, it's just a 17. So yeah, you're able to kind of deflect him away and he's standing there. No damage dealt whatsoever. As we cut back down the beach, I need a speed defense from my Roman.
Okay. Yeah, and Tiberius, he kind of sees this as Red comes in. He's like, come on, Michael. I haven't completely disarmed you yet. You can do it. Bring it. And speed defense. That's why you don't talk shit.
Red Michael, because of a certain thing that has just occurred, does not attack. However, a shot rings out one of the two. You would normally do 5 damage to you, but as Red Michael's not attacking, nor are any of the other riflemen, I believe that's well within your armor range, as you're able to absorb another one of these shots into the shield proper, as the Roman Captain America's the shit. Captain Italy? I'm not sure. Whatever. So we jump back around, and I need an attack from the Roman.
Okay, yeah. The Roman is, he's been showing mostly aggression and strength. And he's going to show that again, but this time when he attacks, it's more of like a feint. So I'm going to be, spinning out of the speed pool this time. As he comes in for what looks like an overhead slash, and at the last second, he's going to whip it around and try to cut horizontal and end this fight. And I'm going to go ahead and use 2 levels of effort on this attack. So it'll be spinning 5 out of my speed pool. All right.
That hits.
And yeah, so that will be that'll be 4 damage.
As the blade cuts across, Red Michael not seeming to notice the jab, the insult, or the blade that cuts through his neck, severing his head from his body. Tell us how, some way, somehow, the flaming shield-wielding Roman kills the captain of the Tide Eternal.
Well, like I said, Tiberius has been playing up all these gunshots as affecting his mobility, stumbling around, using just pure brute strength. And in this last second, you see the grace that he has for what it is, and just kind of bounds forward, like like I said, an overhead slash that quickly turns to just a backhand cut across his neck. And he reaches out with the shield itself and catches Red Michael by the back of what was left of his hair, and does not allow his head to fall to the ground as the body falls away from it. And then he rips the hair out of the back of his skull, and hoping that there's still enough life left, Tiberius puts one more jab in. I took your hair too, you silly little man. And just kind of like, he takes that hair and actually just kind of like stuffs it in his belt.
As the storm clouds begin to gather above the sandbar with the removal of Red Michael from this plane of existence, let's see what happens to Tosh just down the beach as he is standing there in front of the Highlander, Sarah McLeod. Summer?
Yeah, she swung, I think, a little bit delayed by just moving in front of him, and he had a chance to duck down. But she doesn't want this to happen again, and she doesn't want to give him another opportunity to run away. So she probably is off to his side, and is going to swing again, aiming for his neck to follow up on those wounds she left earlier.
Okay. And did you want to use any effort to increase your likelihood of hitting, as you can use either speed or might here?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and spend 2 points of effort.
Okay.
Okay.
And that is all you needed, as he had 2 points of health left, as within moments, both Sarah McLeod and Tiberius take the heads of their respective immortals, and above you, the clouds gather. The riflemen that were furiously reloading to fire again, they stop as they look up and see their fallen leaders, and rifles drop to the sand as they head towards the boat that brought them to this beach. But as you all prepare for this quickening, this transference of energy from Red Michael and Tosh into Tiberius and into Sarah respectively, you see that it is also gathering towards the Ancestor as lightning crashes above the ship. And that is when we will cut back to Alice. Alice, you would have quickly realized, or Bree would have quickly realized, that the best way to watch what's going on would either be from the decks of the Ancestor, through a spyglass, some type of elevation from being at the same level. With the rise and the fall, you can't see anything from this distance. You can stay here if you wish, but retroactively, would she have gone to the Ancestor, or even the Tide Eternal, or another position to maybe see better?
She would have probably returned to the Ancestor, knowing it was familiar ground, as well as giving her a view.
Okay. As you would get everything there, and as you would begin to look, maybe calling for a spyglass from the captain's deck, as the crew runs around, you would feel a pull in your stomach as the quickening takes you again. And as you would turn to regard there, dripping wet on the boards of the ancestor. A man known as Onye stands and reveals themselves to you. My friends,
Welcome.
what happens?
Welcome aboard.
Thank you very much, Captain.
I mean, I didn't give you permission, but welcome aboard.
Should we follow these silly little naval traditions, or do you want to just get down to it?
Why are you on my ship?
Oh, Captain, I would think that was obvious.
And she just nods. And she sort of gestures to the crew that have probably seen this just to back up and back away. And nods.
Before we begin, the demonstration happening on the beach is interesting, isn't it?
It is.
So why are you here instead of over there?
Because of the rules. And they are perfectly capable on their own.
It does not mean that you cannot stand by and watch.
It's not something I wish to watch.
That is a more truthful answer. So, I suppose, and he just cracks all the way up and down. If I will tell you this to your crew. I don't have much interest in your ship. It's not why I'm here. Your ship is not what I plan to take, so should I fall, nothing changes. Should you fall, do you wish to designate your first mate, or are they here, or are they there?
She's on her way back now.
So, swinging
You're
from the...
here.
Sorry.
You're here to return me to my ancestors. Is that what you're here for?
No. That is much more of a familiar way of putting it to my own history. But as with people like us, who really knows what happens to us? But yes,
He sort of looks down. I knew this was coming at some point.
it comes for us all, I suppose. Except for one of us.
What took you so long?
I've been preoccupied.
All the time in the world, I suppose. You don't have to rush anything.
To everything that is its time. You cannot harvest a fruit before it is ripe. It's not good for you, not good for the plant. Is there anything you wish to say to your crew before we begin?
And she sort of looks back briefly.
You see
They
that
already
same...
know.
Yeah, you see that same guy that was face down the night before. Winks.
She winks
Get him.
back. And there's a sad smile on her face, but she does wink back. Okay then. And she draws, you can hear that metal as she draws that sword, that broad sword, not one that is usual to these parts. Okay.
Let's roll some initiative, friends.
I was gonna say, Anye does the same, his preferred weapon being basically a machete that is serrated on one side and razor sharp on the other, but it has a hand hammered, dented, scalloped texture to it. Nice roll. Very nice roll.
Doesn't
Much
mean I'll
nicer
hit.
than mine.
And so, with the initiative going first, we will have the attacker roll. And what we do here is with PvP Immortals, this is tell me what you would like to do, and then there will be a defense roll asked. Basically, the roll with the highest modifier total wins the round. Defender, no damage. Attacker does damage. Let's go ahead and tell me what you'd like to do here.
First of all, Bree sort of straightens herself up, sort of not stretches, but feeling the weight of this broadsword in her hand, sort of again stretches, almost like she's limbering up a bit, just warming up. And I'd like to use one of my special abilities, if it does, which is Muscles of Iron. So for the next 10 minutes, the difficulty of all might-based actions other than attack rolls that I might attempt are reduced by 1.
Right, and so as that happens, what we will do is that gives you a +3 to the modifier that you would have. So when you roll a d20, right now it's a d20 +3.
Okay.
And then Onye... Oh, I'm sorry, is there anything else?
No, I was just going to say she sort of not backs up, but gives him space. Almost out of courtesy.
And you do get to attack with that. So go ahead and launch your attack. And if, Onye, you have anything that could modify your defense and help, go right ahead. I believe that you are trained in, this would be a might defense. So you're basically, why don't you both just roll me a d20? Because
Just
the
a straight up
modifiers...
D20.
Yeah, because both of your modifiers are going to balance out, and I think you both have an armor of 2, so it's going to balance out too. Okay, so with a 10 and an 11 that come in, the blade comes close, but Onye is able to move just out of the way. It is the Mad Eagle's turn. What would you like to do here?
Sparing like a quick glance to the rest of the crew, making sure that they're not getting involved, especially the winky one. Looks like he's still got something in his eye, maybe. Onye just brings his gaze back to Brennan. Is having seen that sad smile, it's like, make this quick, and he just goes straight for her neck. He's not gonna tarry about with toying with her at all. He's just gonna get to the business at hand and do what needs to be done with a chop.
Alrighty, and then that's a might roll, and so does Bree have anything defense might related that she could use here to? I think you're trained in it as well. Do you have a U or a T beside your might defense?
Let's have a look.
Sorry, I'm just trying to find it. I don't know why.
Oh no,
Top
take your
center.
time.
Sorry, Roll20 hates me. It's frozen. I can't.
No, it is untrained. So you get with this attack, it's going to be Onye gets a +3 to it, and it's a straight D20 for Bree. Let's see. Okay, so once again, with a difference of 1, the two of you exchange blows as it moves back and forth with this dance. We are now in the third round, which is if you look down into your intellect attacks, you will see 5 different attacks that you can choose from. You can choose a cut, a thrust, a feint, a parry, or a dodge. Those will be compared against one another, and I will tell you what damage is resulted from it or who scores a hit from these attacks. So if you all find one of those, can you guys find them where they are, the intellects? I'm going to count down to 3, 3, 2, 1. When I hit 1, both of you post which one you want to use, and we'll see what happens.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. Okay, so with a feint and a dodge, both of you, as you move away, take damage from this. So the base damage that you would apply, that your weapon does, is applied to each person respectively. So as you move and go around, Onye, how much do you do as a base damage?
Great question. I'm not sure where to find that.
Okay, I can, and I believe because of something that you have, it is 8.
Okay.
And it is 8. And Bree, I think yours is 5.
5.
Yeah. So, Bree, from your might pool, take 8. Onye, from your might pool, take 5. As the first damage is done on a clash round. And we go back to Bree's attack. And if we're doing the same things, you know, just D20 straight up, and we'll see what happens. Attacker's the only time that we're going to do any damage between immortals.
Okay. I think Bree being struck would... But as she being struck, she goes in for attack, but she sort of tries to spin round at the same time, almost to come round to his back and just try and bring down her blade. And I think, and that's in attack's might, isn't it? Where is it?
Yep, so with a 15 and then I need a might defense from Onye.
Okay. Might defense. Where'd you go? Where'd you go? Where'd you go?
Should be right up in your skills.
Yeah.
Very top of the skills
Yes.
might. Oh, yeah.
Yes, it is. Top center.
And so as the exchange goes through, you're able to move away from this. Bree cannot hit with the strike to your back. It is now Onye's turn. And once again, let's just roll some d20s unless there's something different that you would like to do, Onye, with this attack.
No, not really. He's just, the way this is going back and forth, he's just, a soft sort of smile starts to spread across his face, and he's,
Someone has taught you to dance very well.
and he's going to add D20. So you say D20. Where do I click that?
You can go ahead and roll me just a regular attack, like your chop attack.
Okay.
And yeah, that will give me all the bonuses that I need for it.
There we go.
That's going to be an additional 11 damage to Bree as this massive blow hits. Describe it for me, Tren, and describe Bree's reaction as it hits.
As she's trying to move around behind him, he almost allows it. And as she moves out of his field of vision, he actually watches the eyes of the crew as they watch her. And from their eyes, he figures out where she is and just reverses his turn, comes back around the other way, and makes for a slice for where her neck should be.
And Bree, when you take this hit, what happens?
I think it doesn't surprise her, but she feels herself slowing. It's almost like her full energy isn't in this, as she sort of sees it at the last moment, watching where he's looking and trying to just take everything in, and just at the last second, obviously doesn't dodge it, but takes the hit. And she doesn't cry out, but she just for that moment just grabs where this blade struck and takes a step back, more of a stagger.
And it's at that exact moment, as you don't cry out, as on the beach, reflective with the battle between Red Michael, there is a cry from Tiberius as he has just been wounded, and he bellows forth a sound that reaches from that nearby yet far off shore, and you can hear Tiberius.
She can't help but just look in that direction. She knows it's the wrong thing to do, but she's just breathing heavily, sort of, and quickly straightens herself back up again, sword in hand.
My friends, we are at another clash round. Please pick which attack you would like to use, and I'm going to do the countdown and then post it up for me. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so with this one that comes in, give me 1 second as I go through my cards. With 5 damage to Onye, Bree, you are able to swipe back and describe how your thrust as he cuts at you and how you're able to slip beneath the blade that was aimed at your neck.
Hearing Tiberius almost gives her that just adrenaline punch to the gut, basically, and really it sort of brings her back into the motion. And as she does, and she blocks this blade, she swings round, almost rolling her back against Onye and bringing the blade straight across.
And we jump back into the attack round. Bree, attack. Onye, defense. Let's see what we got. Oh, there we go. I didn't see it pop in there for Trent. So, with this attack being a success, another 5 damage given to Onye as take that away from your might pool. And again, friends, describe this dance.
I think as she's sort of rolled her back over him by keeping her back right up against his, she's allowed him no space. Effectively, she's just closed right in onto him, and as she's rolled round, she's made herself that much closer and just thrust the blade straight into whatever vital place she can find and twists it because she wants it to hurt.
And it do.
And as that goes according to script, let's see what the fates have in store for the attack of Onye.
He is. There is. It's not frustration. There is a clear sense of respect, and this sort of playful sort of smirk, and he coughs a few times, and some blood kind of gurgles up, and he spits it on the deck.
Not quite ready to meet your ancestors yet, eh?
And he comes around for another thing.
Chopper.
I think he's gonna go with a slice this time. The speed attack.
Okay, go right ahead.
15.
And a speed defense from...
Nice.
She rolls around. It's like, don't spit on my ship.
So as the two are locked together now, we are at another clash round. So I'm gonna pick your poison and let's go down from 3, 2, 1. Okay. I'm so nervous. I can't even do anything. Okay. My hands are like, I'm grabbing my car.
Awesome. I'm loving every second of this.
It's stressful.
So, as a parry does in fact beat a cut, 11 damage dealt to Bree. In what manner?
As she has been so close up in his space, trying to avoid any arcing swings or whatever, he brings his arm around across her chest and brings the blade around and just goes for a draw cut while saying something that probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But at the end of it, there is almost a not necessarily a tenderness, but a sense of a kindly farewell.
And you are into intellect, correct, Bree?
I have 1 left in speed.
You are up then, as this is drawn across, but this terrible wound, what does it do?
I think she gasps more than anything at first, just feeling that sort of wound open up. She doesn't say anything back. If anything, under her breath, she's just mumbling to herself words over and over, a variety of things. She first can't help but call out for Sarah, because normally she's by her side when they're fighting. And then a fair few times she says the name Tiberius over and over again, almost as if it's trying to give her that adrenaline rush one more time.
And it indeed gifts her with that, as you have, with 1 speed, another attack.
Okay.
Roll the defense.
That's speed defense?
Speed
Or
defense. And
Okay.
yeah, that was a speed attack, wasn't it?
Okay, yeah. I think. I'm going to presume. 6. Probably not that good.
So, with 9 damage dealt to the might and speed pools of Onye, Bree, 1 point away. What do you do as the words Tiberius and Sarah escape your lips, but the dance with Onye continues?
She mutters once or twice the words of the steps that Tiberius said when he tried to teach her how to effectively spin round. So she takes his hand, pulls it out, and almost as she does, she motions, she watches her feet, comes round, and that broadsword she just thrusts as hard as she can upwards.
Let's tell the viewers, Tren, where's that putting Onye right now? How's the big guy looking?
He is down to 6 points of speed and 8 points of intellect. So he's down a pretty good ways.
So I will ask you this. You have an attack here. What does Onye do with this formidable opponent?
He's starting to kind of, it almost looks like a twitch in the corner of his eye.
Very not bad. For one so young.
And he's going to just absolutely come down for a very severe what do you call that thing?
Chop.
That thing. Yeah, bleeding out, so can't really think too clearly. How does effort work in this thing?
The effort we would bring into play if I've been keeping track of everybody, what you've been doing with your but you both can play it as much as you're both equal in that respect. So we're just trying to keep it as simple as we can with rolls.
Okay, no problem then. Chop it is.
Chop that chop.
4.
Might defense. With the remainder of the steps ringing in the head, as Bree, you're able to do both the spin and you're leading the dance now as you sidestep. We are coming down to the clash round. I need you to pick what you would like to do. And I'm going to count down 3, 2, 1. How many points of damage do you do, Bree? 5?
5.
With 5 points of damage dealt to Onye, by my math, you're both at 1. As we spin out of this, we go back into the attack round. Bree, Onye, you have taken each other to the very limits of math, physicality, and my sanity. Roll that attack roll, Bree, and then we'll do a defense. And so is that a speed attack? I'm shook right now, so I'm not going to be much.
That's might.
That's a might. So roll me a might, and this one would be, this is the one with the +3. The might's +3 for Onye on this, so just keep that in mind before the roll. So Onye might, natural 20, and an attack by Onye, as again thrust is met with air. Onye, what are you going to do here?
He is going for a slice, and he's just the breathing is ragged. He's just as you said, at his limits, and with the kind of the foaming at the corner of the mouth, just the frothy pink foam from the mixture of blood and everything else. It just mutters, and slices. Speed attack.
Speed defense from Bree. And with this dance, as all dances do, the music ends. Onye, Your slice is true, finally, as it enters the side of Bree's neck and exits the other. But it is not to you that I will ask. It is to Bree. At the end, what goes through your mind?
I think it's a flash just to a happier moment, and when she sees it's coming, she closes her eyes and she remembers the time they traveled together, and she remembers the dance, and she remembers the kiss, and she smiles. And she sort of shakes her head briefly and just whispers, "Finally, they're going to accept me." And that's when it happens.
And that's indeed when it does happen. And upon the beach, as Sarah is struck by the first bolt of the quickening, and Tiberius struck by the bolt as well. Tiberius and Sarah both see the ancestor struck by a powerful bolt of lightning straight down the mast as the crew jumps into the sea. Lightning smashes about the boards, and the captain and the ship go down. But that is not where we will end our session, nor our story. We will end it at the last moment that Bree thought of. Because that is the want of immortals. We can pick up a story wherever we would like. The beginning, the middle, or the end. And so we go back to 113 AD. You are learning to dance. The moment has come where the lips touch one another. The Celt leads the Roman. And in these moments after Ramirez Tacne has left the room, the kiss has occurred. And this is the relationship that would grow for centuries. What do these two immortals do to start it? What words do they say?
I think Bree straightens them both up and looks directly at Tiberius, smiling, but there's for once, a playfulness in her eyes, and a Roman and a Celt.
Well, if there's hope for us, then there's hope for our peoples, I would suppose. I wanted to do that for quite a while.
I think I did too. You know, if this is what being immortal is, it's not so bad. The ancestors can wait a little longer.
Yes. Let them wait. For this is our time.
And it will always be their time. For in all things, in all stories, that we can choose. The dance eternal will continue. Bree and Tiberius, forever leading. And that is where we will end this session of Highlander If on a Winter's Night. I would like to thank Tren for being Onye. I would like to thank Summer for being Sarah. But we're going to stay right here with the Celt and the Roman before we say our goodbyes. And I'd like to thank the Legion. You all were great tonight. But let's start with Pruitt. Tiberius, how are you, my friend? Where can we find you?
Well, first off, how dare you make me try to role play after seeing that? Fuck. Man, that was utterly and absolutely amazing. It is exactly what I have come to expect from any game that is run by this man, Greg. Holy God. I am in awe of everything that happened here. This has been such an amazing story thus far, and I can't wait to see how it unfolds. Okay, professional now. I am Pruitt, one half of WebDM. You can check our videos out on Wednesdays, where we offer advice and DM tips videos there on YouTube, and we also have games on Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. So be sure to check our Twitch channel out for that. I can't wait to see what happens next week.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. And we go now to... And actually, I think what we'll do is... Let me pull up my one-on-one with Alice. Alice, my dear friend. How are you? Unbelievably fantastic.
I am shaking. That was insane.
That was so good. I love Bree. I'm stopping to talk now. You talk.
It was very intense, but I loved every second, and the dice definitely told the story there, because I have rolled appallingly the entire Highlander game, and then it came into play during the fight, which makes all the bad rolls worth it, as I say. But I'm always consider myself so lucky when you get to be my DM and when I get to play with some seriously awesome people like the ones we've had here. But she finally got to meet her ancestors, and it was in a happy place. So I'm okay with that. She learned a lot, even though she didn't last as long.
The throwback to the spin of the dance during the fight, the fact that the two of you were at one is unreal. I will never, the mechanics tell the story, and you and Tren did sometimes I get so bored of combat, and I think it is so ridiculous, but I don't think I've ever seen a dance of combat performed so well by two people. That was brilliant, and thank you so much for bringing Bree to life and giving her a send-off that is going to be very difficult to top.
Well, thank you for inviting me, because I don't think I've ever played Cypher System either. I've only ever run it, so it's nice to finally play it as well. But I love all these characters, and I can't wait to see the rest of them and where their stories go.
Right. And so that is where we will change gears for next week, everyone. As we say goodbye to the Celt, we will say hello to our last two immortals, and they will be played by Tall Squall and Bird. And I'm not going to ruin a thing for those two, but I'm blessed to have players like these. They create characters with such passion and pride, and I am blessed to be a part of a channel with a chat and a community that is so involved. Thank you all so much. Join us back here in just about an hour and a half time. We will have May Black Roses Bloom, our season finale. And then tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern, Allison and I will be back together with the season finale of Wild Blue Yonder, our Lady Blackbird campaign. So it is a couple days of endings, but just like your favorite stories, you can always pick them up again at the beginning, the middle, or the end. And as the campfire goes down, there's only one thing left to say. You can't always roll nat 20s, but you can always role play. See you next time, Legion.